Number one, I look at cash flow. Some people teach, got to be a certain percentage of the after repair value. But I said, no, you got to look at the cash flow first, because you could be buying or looking in a flipping area. In flipping area, you could make money from the cash out, but it's not going to cash flow. So you have to look at the cash flow first and look at how much you're spending on it second.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the Marvin Francois Show, your number one source for all things business, finance, and investing. And today is a very special day because our guest today is a real estate investor with over 150 doors and a real estate portfolio valued at $12 million. She's the owner and founder of The Savvy Real Estate Investor, a platform dedicated to educating and coaching other professionals on how to become successful in the real estate space. And given to date, okay, she's helped professionals do well over 8 figures in real estate acquisitions in total. I think it's safe to say that success is an understatement. Through nearly 2 decades of experience, our guest has collected a treasure trove of knowledge on the real estate business that she has shared through her strong social media following, educating hundreds of thousands of individuals across the country, which is why I brought her on today to do the same for y'all. I'm here with the one, the only, Miss Janelle Wilson. What's going on, family? How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Most definitely. How's everything on your end? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad COVID's over. I'm getting done with these projects. Prices are back down to normal. Labor is normal. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And you are originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
I'm from New Jersey.
You're originally from New Jersey. Sorry about that.
Yep.
By way of, then from there, segued over to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Came on down to Brooklyn, New York to bless us and give us the game on top of the game on top of the game.
Yep.
Most definitely. Excited to have you. So obviously I know who you are, and there are some people who are familiar with you who are watching this episode already. But for those who don't know, just take a minute to let the people know who you are, where you're from, what you do, and how you got your start.
So I'm Janelle Wilson. I'm from New Jersey, and I'm a chemical engineer. I went to school for engineering, and my last year there is when I got my first property. I saved my dad's house from share sale. When I had no money, no experience, no nothing, my grandmother said, hey, your dad's house about to go up. You need to come save it. And without any kind of nothing, I've never even been inside that property. I got a student loan and paid it. It was going to get torn down. I had to go get the violations fixed. The wall was crumbling in the back. I had no idea, and I went and got those things fixed. But that was my first property. And when I did get it finished, it was making $700 a month for my more than my main job. When I did start working 6 months later, my salary was $38,000 a year, which is kind of low for an engineer at the time, and my paychecks were about $1,000, and then my first rent check was $1,100. So I'm like, hold up, this rent check is more than my paycheck, and I went to school for 4 years, and I did this renovation for 6 months. So that was kind of how I got started. Basically.
Got you. So you said that your father's house was going through a sheriff sale. For those who don't know, could you talk a little bit about that? Yeah,
in Philadelphia, whenever you don't pay your taxes, your real estate taxes, eventually it goes up for sheriff sale, and it goes to the highest bidder, cash, and I was able to stop it, say, this is my dad's house, can I pay off the taxes? So I was able to stop it that way. They still have sheriff sales. They have them with foreclosures, mostly real estate taxes, but yes, also the way I buy properties too, but yeah.
Got you. So your father's house was going through the sheriff's sale, and then from there you're like, I got to step in here and do something. And like you said at the time, you had never
been inside it.
Stepped foot at the house. Talk a little bit more about, like, I guess that property, that process of getting it. You financed the saving of your father's house through a...
So just to back up, he bought that house in the 80s. It was across the street from my grandmother's house. My great-grandmother and my aunt lived on the same block. And he had fell on hard times, started doing drugs, and he kind of let everything go. He left us. He let the house fall apart. It had been vacant for over 10 years. So it was falling apart all that time. And so when I found out it was going up for share sale, I'd forgotten all about this property. It was boarded up, and I just got a student loan. That was the only thing I knew at the time.
Right.
So that was how I paid for it. When I paid for the violations, I got a cash advance on my credit card, because that was also the only thing I knew at the time. Now, I was at Rutgers, and they always had those credit card people coming up, passing out free movie tickets and T-shirts. And I was like, yes, credit cards, I can go to the movies for free. And that was my first credit card. I actually still have that credit card.
Wow.
And I got a cash advance The interest rate was 20 something percent, but I was like, I had to stop it from getting torn down. So
Got you.
I was able to pay it back quickly. I don't recommend people doing that, but it was just, like I said, all I knew at the time. And so that was how I financed that part. Now, the way I financed the rest of the renovation, after I paid that $5,000 or $10,000 total, and I went and looked inside the property, and I was like, I don't know how to fix this. I don't know what to do. I got a couple estimates. They were like way out of my league. I didn't have that much credit on my cards. I didn't have any cash saved up. I couldn't save that much from working, and so I decided I would sell it. So an investor offered me $45,000 for this property. This is in 2004.
Wow.
It was a total renovation. In my mind, I thought it was worth $25,000. So the fact that he offered me 45, I was like, really? I didn't know it'd be worth that much. So instead of me thinking like, let me get this cash and go do something for it, I was like, no. It got me thinking. I said, I should keep this thing. So shortly after, I'm at the hair salon and I'm telling people like about my debacle. And there's another customer. She says, I got a house around the corner from there. And I just did a drive-by appraisal. Now, appraisal is when they go and analyze how much a house is worth. And she got a loan, home equity loan for $60-something thousand. I'm like, what? Drive-by appraisal? That means they don't go inside the house. So I was able to fix up the outside. Luckily, there were no drones back then because they would have flew over and saw a big old hole in the roof. So I was able to get a drive-by appraisal. I painted the outside, got new windows, new doors, and then the price was $70,000.
Wow.
But it had liens on it. I had
Gotcha.
liens, mortgages, water bills, contractor, just all kinds of stuff. I added up to another 45. So it's a good thing I didn't sell it because I would have been paying money at the table.
Right.
So I paid off those liens. I had like $18,000 left over, and it was enough for me to get started. And I just paid the rest out of my pocket. But I had the normal contractor drama. He stopped showing up. I had to pull up on his other project and find his workers, and his workers actually finished the job for me. But 6 months later, I got 2 Section 8 tenants, and that was when the money started rolling in.
The money started rolling in.
Yep,
Was
yep.
rocking. So you would consider that your first real estate deal ever?
Absolutely, yeah. And
Gotcha.
it was hard. It was hard. But, luckily I was young. I didn't have like a whole bunch of things going on. And I did have sleepless nights. It was a lot of money to me, a lot of money. And this thing is, I didn't know how much I was going to make later. It was like all on faith. It was all on this other investor feeling like this house was worth $45,000. Like he must know something I don't know. So I didn't know how much I can make. I didn't know any of that stuff. I don't even think I priced the rents back then. But yeah, it was all on faith, and I made it. And once I saw that rent check hit my account, it was like, what?
Ball game.
Yes.
Ball game. So at the time, you were still working in the chemical engineering space.
Yeah.
So essentially, chemical engineering. But how did you balance like work while kind of going through that process as a college student? Right.
Yeah.
You didn't have a mentor, so there was
No.
nobody to show you.
Nope.
At the time, you didn't know about things like, the ARV and all these different things. You're kind of just figuring it out as you're going along.
Yeah.
What was that balance like of like still being in the chemical engineering space and then trying to navigate this first real estate deal?
Fortunately, I work for the government. My family is like really on security. My whole family work for government. GSA, the VA, DEA, FBI, everybody works for the government because we value security. So even though I had friends who were working at Johnson & Johnson and Colgate-Palmolive making 65 out the gate, we value security. So the nice thing about the government is that it's kind of cushy.
Okay.
Yeah, so once you leave at 5 o'clock, you don't have to worry about anything.
Right.
So the nice thing about my job was that it was cushy. And I'm considered a hard worker, and I was doing way more work than other people did. And once I realized that, I'm like, if I could put in 3 hours of work, like I would get all the raises that I wanted. I was the star employee if I do 3 hours worth of work. So
Right.
it gave me the time to go out on my lunch break, look at houses, check on my projects, and leave at 5 o'clock on time and have plenty of time to go and check on stuff. So that was actually easy. But I didn't get paid a lot. I got $38,000. The next year I got a raise up to like $48,000. And then it's like you get like $2,000 a year. Like it's in steps. So no matter how hard you work, no matter how good you are, how smart you are, but the government, you just get incremental steps. And it was like $1,500 between each one. So you weren't really rewarded for doing any hard work. And so I spent all my hard work in the real estate. But yeah, it was kind of easy to balance. I was young. I didn't have any kids. It was easy. And my goal was to be a stay-at-home mom whenever I did have kids.
Okay.
And so I wanted to put all my money, and before I knew about real estate, I planned on just saving, stockpiling a lot of money so that when I had kids, I could quit and just live off of that cash. But then when I discovered real estate, I'm like, I'm just gonna put all my money into there so that I can still be making money and not be losing, not pulling from my pot. So my goal was just to get as much real estate as possible before I had kids so that I could spend time with them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow. So now, kind of continuing along that timeline, right? You essentially, your first real estate deal is kind of an impromptu deal of your attempt of trying to save your father's house from a sheriff's sale, right? You secure it, don't really know too much about real estate. You take the lumps and bumps as it go along, but ultimately you come out of the deal. How many more did you walk away from your career at that point in time, or did you get a couple more deals under your belt before you ultimately decided, like, okay, I'm going to transition from chemical engineering and going all in on real estate?
So because my job was so cushy, I was going to work there forever.
Okay.
I had no incentive to leave. I just wanted to make more money. So I kept making more money. And what happened was the Great Recession. So when the Great Recession happened, there was a pay freeze. There were no step increases, no raises, no nothing. So I was cool because I had the rental income coming in, but everyone else was angry.
Gotcha.
And I understood. And I didn't even tell people that I had these other properties going on. So I'm pretending like I'm angry too. Like,
right.
But what really messed things up was they had a buyout. And a lot of people at my job were older. They were all technicians. So as a chemical engineer, you work in what's called a pilot plant. There's big equipment and people are running experiments. And I kind of designed the experiment, and the technician, they keep an eye on the equipment. If anything goes wrong, they're there, they'll alert me. And I'm just kind of overseeing things. So when they did this buyout, all the technicians, they've been there for 40 years. They got paid $25,000 and then their full retirement to leave early. So there was no one to run this equipment except me. So now I'm sitting here babysitting equipment, and I can't even leave for lunch to go check on my projects. And because I was the only one, I had to manage all these different projects from other people. And because I'm pretty capable, I did rise to the occasion. Even though I wasn't getting paid more money, I was on top of the projects. But it's just, I didn't have the time that I used to have. And I was like, you know what? I don't need this job.
Right.
And there was one scientist who would be in my office waiting for me at 7:30 in the morning. I couldn't work at 7:30. I drink my coffee, I check my email, check my bank accounts, and then I get to work. Don't be in my office waiting for me. You come in my office, try to micromanage me, and don't let me leave early on Friday. That's when I get upset. So I was like, you know what? I don't need this job. So I let my boss know like 4 months in advance that I'm going to resign. And the projects that I was working on then, it was, by the time I got them rented out, it's going to be the same amount of my salary. So this is 8 years later. I've been working for 8 years. I was cash flowing $70,000 in my properties, and I was making $78,000 at work. So I was balling out of control. Philly stuff is cheap. My mortgage at the time was $700. I was buying clothes, buying my friends' clothes, happy hour. Like, it was just a good time. So it was a huge adjustment when I had to leave. But 8 years into it, I was cash flowing $70,000, and I could leave. So that was when I decided to leave. Cushy job was not cushy anymore. I thought I would be there for a long time, but things changed. And I had the opportunity and the freedom to leave.
You had the opportunity and the freedom to leave.
Yep.
And then, fast forward a couple years later, doing pretty well for yourself, right?
Yes. 10 years later, I'm ready to stop buying. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about, from, of course, where you started as a college student that was essentially thrusted into it to now an established realtor with, once again, nearly 2 decades under her belt, some of not only the success that you've had, but like I said, you work with a lot of individuals who kind of come from similar backgrounds like you, right? Professionals from accounting, professionals from STEM.
Yep.
Talk about their success as well that they've also been able to have in the real estate space from working with you.
Yeah. So as I got to meet people and network and other real estate investors who had like large portfolios, when we got to know each other, I found out we were all engineers.
Wow.
All of us.
Okay.
Yes. It was amazing. I was like, well, you're an engineer too. And so I think it's because we pay attention to details. And so where a lot of people might lose or make mistakes, we catch them ahead of time. We're trained to see things like 5, 6, 7 steps down the road. So where other people lose money, we don't, because we catch it. And then also we can look at the small picture and the big picture and make the best decisions. We're very logical. We're professional. We can go into a bank and apply for a loan and be okay with it. And we usually have good credit because we're type A. We want to make sure everything is perfect. We're trained to follow the rules. And so because of that, we can be very straight and narrow and navigate and take on a lot of projects and risks because we can control it. So once people can kind of let go of the rules, which I've learned. I've learned this just by going through it and making mistakes on my own and getting people angry and realizing that some stuff just isn't a big deal. That once I can let go of a lot of things, we can really scale and run our numbers, and handle a lot. So when people find out how I analyze deals, they buy 5 properties in 1 year.
Really?
Yeah.
Goodness
Because it's like the rules that we're taught, it makes it look like you can't get a good deal. But it's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Don't look at the IRR. Don't look at the ROI. Look at this one thing. And then you can. So it's like, it's just too much information that all of us type A people, we like to read and watch everything. And it kind of is just too much information. So once you get rid of a lot of that noise and stuff, it kind of unlocks the doors, and then you just start taking over.
Are you trying to leverage your personal credit to get business credit or business loans, but keep getting denied because your personal credit isn't where it needs to be? Takeoff Financial can help you restore your personal credit so that you can leverage it towards getting the funding that your business needs. So click the link above or below this video so that you can schedule a free consultation and see how we can simplify your finances and your life. And I'm actually happy that you said that, because that's why I love connecting with individuals like yourself that I'm able to bring on and share that information, right? Because there are a lot of women that look like you, walk like you, talk like you, that also are watching this episode right now and want to make that transition, but just don't necessarily know how. They have an interest in real estate, but they feel like they're kind of chained to this career that has probably done okay for them, but they know there's a lot more on the other side. So if it's all right with you, I want to just break that down for those individuals and walk them through how they can get into it. Is it okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. So a big part of real estate, as I know, and as you know, as being in the space, is, like you said earlier, finding the deals, right?
Yeah.
I think that's, finding the deals, from what I understand, is once you're able to get that out the way, everything else kind of falls in place from there.
Exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about that. You stumbled into your first deal, but for aspiring investors that are looking to get into the space, how can I go about securing my first deal as a new investor that's trying to get into the game?
Right. So the first thing that we're taught is, hire a realtor. So my second property was through a realtor. My third property was through a realtor. My fourth property was finding someone called me and said that they had a house. They didn't want to pay the mortgage anymore. They just wanted $1,000 and I would take over it. So that was technically my first off-market deal. And then after that, I kind of met electricians and plumbers, and they knew people, other investors who want to sell their properties. I got introduced to wholesalers, auctions. But now I think, especially when COVID happened, the auctions kind of dried up. But the biggest thing that we use is software called like PropStream or Deal Machine.
Okay.
And, the realtors use the MLS, and that just shows you the properties and their basic history. But these other software like PropStream, they go through, they know if there's a mortgage on there, they know if it's free and clear, they tell you where the owner is. So they give you scripts of what to call and say to these people. Like these other programs, there's so many houses that are off the market than are on the market. Because, people are on the market. They're aware of hiring a realtor. But people sometimes are left properties or, whatever the case. They're not even in the state. So you can search houses that are owned by people out of state, out of the country. I have a student who just bought a duplex that's in like great condition for $100,000. Needs about $50,000 worth of work. It doesn't even need that much. She just wants to make it pretty. And once she rents it out, she's going to be making $2,600 a month. And she bought it from someone in Africa who has no clue.
Africa?
Yes. Yeah. He was an investor. He's buying stuff here in Philly, and he had houses like on the same block.
Okay.
Multifamilies. And no one knows what the houses are worth here. They're in their own world. They don't know. So he just wants his number and be done. So she got this price for $100,000, easily worth for $250,000. And so this off of looking up houses that are owned by people who don't live in the state or who don't live in the property. So you can set up different parameters, houses that have been owned for over 20 years, houses with no mortgage, and just target those people. Write them a letter, call them, whatever. And like I said, they give you scripts now. It just make it so easy to just plug and play and get these properties.
You talked about like on-market deals versus off-market deals. For, I guess, when you were in the process of really building out your portfolio, right? What was the personal strategy that you had? Do you have specific types of houses, whether it was single family versus multifamily, whether it was distressed property versus turnkey? What was your strategy that you had, in the earlier stages of you building your profile out as you were getting into the real estate game?
Because my first property was a duplex, that was kind of what I stuck with. My second property was duplex. The subject to the one where I assumed that was a single family, but I did that because I actually couldn't get any more FHA loans. I didn't know why. I was like, I'm making $60,000. I'm getting this cash from these properties. Why can't I get these loans? So the next thing I knew what to do was a subject to. So when I assumed that was a single family, so I just did that because that was all I could buy. And then when I started using credit cards to buy houses, I went to auctions, and those would go for like $10,000. So those were just cheaper. So because I could afford the cheaper single families, I bought those. But then I realized that the single families is actually less work. the multifamilies, you got to take care of the yard. You got to pay the water bill. There might be like things going on between the tenants. You got to pay for trash. But the single families, people live in there. They don't move out. They take care of the yard, the shovel the snow, and so it's actually more passive. So even though they don't cash flow as much, they're more passive, and actually you can get to cash out a lot of money. So they're cheap. There might be 10,000. Well, back then they were 10,000. Now they might be like 45, 50, 60, 70, depending on the condition. But they'll worth 150. Cash out the money, but you're only gonna cash flow like 350. The multifamilies, they cost more money. Things cost more to replace. You've got two kitchens, two of everything. So you pay more money, but they cash flow more. And like I said, it's a little bit more work because you have to manage more things. So my strategy is mostly small multifamily. I have a lot of duplexes, triplexes, and quads. I just have like 3 singles, just because I've had them for a long time, and I don't sell. I buy and hold because it's not a job to me. I just want to get this cash flow going and live the soft life. So the multifamily is my niche. I wish I would have scaled up and did like 10, 20, 50 units later because I realized it's a lot more money involved. But I had my deal flow was just coming so well with the auctions I was going to, with the wholesalers that they knew my buy box and they would just bring me all great deals. And I had the contractor and I had my lender. So it was just like a symphony of all this great stuff going on. And so I just kept buying it. But now that I actually don't have my contractor anymore, I'm done. But yeah, my buy box is small multifamily because they cash flow great. The prices are low and they're pretty simple to manage.
For you personally, how do you differentiate a good deal from a bad deal, right? Because the name of the game is we're here to spend money to make money.
Yep.
Right? Not all deals are created equally.
Right.
What are you looking for to kind of know like, oh yeah, this is one for me right here?
Yeah, so number one, I look at cash flow. Some people teach, got to be a certain percentage of the after repair value. But I said, no, you got to look at the cash flow first because you could be buying or looking in a flipping area. In flipping area, you could make money from the cash out, but it's not going to cash flow. So you have to look at the cash flow first and look at how much you're spending on it second. So for single families, I would like to cash flow like 350, and then if it's worth, if I'm spending like 120,000, I want it to be worth 150. I wanted the rent to be $1,300, $1,400, $1,500, and so I cash flow like 350, and that's after all the expenses. Multifamilies, I would like it to be 350 a door. So for duplexes, I typically cash flow $900, but the minimum is like 700. Triplexes, I'm cash flowing like 13. So someone could buy 5 duplexes and replace their income, if they make like $40,000, $50,000. And then it doesn't even take that long to manage. You're working 40 hours a week. Once you get your tenant in there, it's so easy. They got property management systems and people can submit a maintenance request and then go directly to your maintenance person. It's just so easy to do. But
Gotcha. You also mentioned earlier, because this is something I've always known of it in real estate, but I don't really hear a lot of people talking about it now, like working with like wholesalers.
Yeah.
Right. And how for essentially, I believe like those are like essentially middlemen when it comes to securing properties. Talk a little bit more about like how we can potentially leverage that to also find deals as well, whether it's wholesalers or even like going to auctions as well.
Yep. So I'm pretty hands off. Even though the BRRRR strategy in general is an active real estate investing strategy, I don't paint, I don't door knock, I don't do any of that stuff. So I pretty much manage all the people who are doing the work. So I work directly with the wholesalers who are calling the people who are going on Deal Machine and finding the deals. I don't think that's worthy of my time. So
Gotcha.
I work with wholesalers, I work with the subcontractors, and I work with the software. So I'm pretty hands off. I'm just managing people. I'm the visionary. I see the project. I see the most money it can make. I know how to do the zoning and make this property make money. And then I just hire the people to all do it. So wholesalers, I use wholesalers a lot. My first wholesaler I met through my electrician. So different wholesalers have their different specialties. This one did probates. So whenever someone passed away, he would go and look up how many properties they had, and he would contact the heirs and get them to all sign off and get properties for dirt cheap. So he always had packages. So he had a package, and I got my first triplex for $13,000. I got another duplex for $20,000. That first triplex, my first time having one, appraised for $300,000 after I bought it for 13
You said
and put less than 100,000 into it. And that was how I started buying triplexes. So, and that was an appraisal. Like no one knew that houses would appraise for 300,000 in that area.
Right.
It's the same way now in Philly, like in Southwest Philly. When I post online that this house appraised for 300, they're like, really? In Southwest Philly? I said, yep. Yep, and no one even knows. They're not buying over there because they don't know they can appraise. But that's the kind of things that you discover when you're in it, you know?
Gotcha.
But yeah, did I answer your question?
That definitely answers my question. I got to go look into some triplexes myself. You
Yeah,
understand?
that's where the money is.
How do you feel about out-of-state investing as well? Because I know that, you once again, originally from New Jersey,
Yeah.
now being based in PA, even though you yourself are not, touching and doing the painting and a lot
Yeah,
of
you're
that.
managing the people.
You're managing the people, right? Are you for or against kind of like out of state investing, and have you had any experience dealing with that up until this point?
So fortunately, I haven't had to. I did consider it back in 2019, 2018 when we thought prices were high. Turns out it was like stupid cheap back then. But anyway,
Right.
I have not. It just adds a layer of risk. And you just have to make sure you find a good team. No, you find a good team. You have to know how to manage people. You got to know business. And a lot of people like me who are engineers, we're a little socially awkward.
Okay.
We don't know how to talk to people sometimes. So
Gotcha.
I've learned that that has been our challenge. We're great with the numbers. We're great with everything else, but we're terrible at like managing people and kind of like staying on top of people. So that's the only thing. So once you know how to be more of a people person and how to not make people feel like stupid or something, but just as long as you find your team out of state, you're fine. You're golden.
You said something key that I also wanted to touch on, because you were talking about how, once upon a time, I think back in 2018, 2019, that was a time where you and probably some other investors thought like, oh, like this is way too expensive to invest now. Now, fast forward, us being in 2023, you look back like, oh, we were getting a bargain.
Yes.
So now in the same vein, that kind of segues into another thing, because obviously right now we're in a recession and you hear a lot of rumblings about, for either investors that are trying to get in or investors that are in, hey, be careful. This may not necessarily be the best time. What would you say in regards to just, I guess, what's going on right now in the economy in comparison to different people either trying to get into real estate or people already in real estate who are trying to build out their portfolio?
Yeah. If you listen to podcasts like Bigger Pockets from 2019, you'll hear them talking about, crash is coming, just because prices were just so high. And there were people who were selling their portfolio so that they can cash out at this, high price and then profit from when it crashed. But then when 2020 happened and the market and the rates dropped and the market skyrocketed, they were kicking themselves because number one, they can't afford to buy nothing now. There's no price. And then they could have got more money. So it's like you can never time the market.
Right.
And because you can always get deals for less than what they're worth at auctions, through wholesalers, from contacting the owner, you can always get stuff for cheap. So once you know how to get stuff for cheap, you know how to do the financing, there's just no reason not to always buy. You can always buy. There's always opportunities.
There's always opportunities.
Yep.
There you go. And like you said, you can't time the market. And one of my favorite sayings is, I think it was Wall Street Trapper. He said something like, time in the market is better than timing the market.
Right.
Got you. So essentially that same principle also applies to real estate as well.
Yes. Right? Yeah. And once you're in it, that's when you find the deals. You have those relationships. People know that you're buying. They'll bring you deals. So it's like you really have to get in it and get in our world and having those connections. While you're on the outside and on the sidelines, you're missing everything. You have no idea what's going on. Yeah.
Right. Beautiful. So we have an understanding now of like different ways that we can go about finding deals. You talked about share of sales, auctions, wholesalers, prop stream, things of that nature. Once we secure a deal, once we find a deal, that's just, we essentially just got started, right? Another big part of it is financing the deal, because we're not coming out of pocket to pay $10, $20, $30, $40,000 on these properties. What are some of the different ways that we can go about financing these deals that we're able to get our hands on?
Right. So if you're someone who has money, you're making $300,000 a year, you can buy turnkey properties and be able to keep buying. But if you're a real estate investor who doesn't have a lot of money, the nice thing is that you can find houses for cheap and fix them up. And lenders, they love people who know how to buy properties and fix them up. So once you can prove to a lender that you can do this, you can get financing so easily. So I usually tell people just get one cosmetic property, fix it up, use a hard money lender, and you can get money, all the money you want. You can go to a bank, get lines of credit. But to get started, people are getting like business credit cards. You get business credit cards, you transfer the money into your account using stuff like Plastique or even Venmo now. If you have an Amex card, you can pay yourself through Venmo and get the cash off the card. So there are different ways to get the cash off the card. If you're a new investor, you just need cash to get started. But once you have your relationship with your hard money lender, you can get financing so easily.
Got you. Talk a little bit more about that. For those who don't know, what exactly is because we know about banks, we know about credit cards, lines of credit, things like that. What is a hard money lender, and how can we use them to finance some of these deals that we're looking into?
Yeah, so most people know about FHA loans. They were the first loans I knew about. I would always tell the lender, like, yeah, I'm moving to a better area. Let me get another FHA loan. But I realized that the FHA loans, there's so much red tape, so many things. Like the house has to have this done, it has to pass inspection, it has to appraise. And it's hard to get a good deal because sellers sometimes don't want to go through FHA. They don't want to wait 30 days. So the benefit of hard money lenders is that they're as good as cash. I can tell a seller that I'm offering cash. I can close in 2 days, and because of that, I can get a discount. So a house might be listed for $100,000 on the market. They get an offer from an FHA person of $100,000, at price, but they can close in 45 days. I say, hey, I can close in 2 weeks. How about this for 80?
Come on now.
Yep. And so I'm getting a huge discount. I'm saving $20,000. And yes, the hard money lender has points. The points are like 2 points. So I'm paying $1,600 additional, and then I'm paying like 11% interest, which is still way less than $20,000. And so I can close quickly, so I can get good deals. I get all the deals. Whenever I see that someone's having problems, I'll call them and say, hey, I can close in 2 days as soon as title's done. And so I get houses for cheap. So I have that power, even though I'm paying cash. I say I'm paying cash and I'm not. I still say it. And in fact, I can close in 2 weeks. So when wholesalers know that I have this hard money lender backing me, that's when I get the deals. They bring me deals because they know I can close. So
does getting that kind of relationship with hard money lenders, does it come from time of just doing continuous deals with them back to back to back, or because you talked about points, right? For those who don't know, can you talk a little bit more about that and like what exactly points are when it comes to dealing with these lenders?
Yeah, so hard money lenders, they are short. They call them bridge loans. They're only to acquire property and get it to cash flowing status, or to get it fixed up so it could be flipped or refinanced. And so hard money lenders, they make their money on lending out the money. They want to lend their money out and get it right back. So they charge you points. They charge between 2 to 3 points. So a point is a percentage of the property. So if a house is $100,000, a point is $1,000. So if it's 3 points, you're paying $3,000. So it's just a fee on top of it. And as long as you're getting a house for a discount, that fee is worth it. They're going to bring me deals because I'm paying cash. So already I have a leg up. I can offer less money because I'm paying cash. So it's a benefit that people don't see because they're always focused on the interest rate and the points.
Got you. Are hard money lenders the same as, because I've also heard something about private money lenders. Are they the same thing or are they different?
They're like in between.
Talk to me.
When I was a young investor, I didn't have any money and I only knew about FHA loans and I didn't use credit cards. I did ask my uncles who I knew had money if they would, lend to me just so I can keep investing. But even though I had 3 deals under my belt and I've always been a hard worker and I've always been like, I'm smart, and they didn't trust me. They didn't trust me. So, when people use private money, they're using people who have money, who have good jobs, and you would pay them like 8% on their money, which is higher than a savings account, higher than, the stock market. So people can get private money to buy deals. So I didn't have that benefit. So hard money lenders, I discovered hard money lenders at a real estate convention. They had a table out and they were like, hey, we can give you a loan for 17%. And I'm thinking like, all right, 17%, I'm still going to make $700 in cash flow. I only need this loan for 6 months. I'll pay it. No big deal. But then I actually found like a smaller local company, hard money lender, who's charging 12. And basically they are using people's like self-directed IRAs, people's retirement money, other real estate investors who just have cash now. So it's like private money, but it's being controlled by a lender.
Got you. Yeah. Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah. Got you. And, earlier on, you also talked about like different credit cards and things like that. Do you personally, because once again, building the portfolio you have, do you have specific banks that you personally are kind of just have in your back pocket to where like, okay, I know I'm good to go when it comes to financing from here, that you would recommend to other investors? Or? Yeah.
So I always preach local lenders because you build a relationship. You can walk into a credit union and they will make a product for you. There's been credit unions who never did like the BRRRR strategy. They don't do construction loans. But once you have a relationship with them, they will make a product for you. Whereas Wells Fargo, Chase, you you get what they have available.
Okay.
And you don't talk to the underwriter. But at small banks, you talk to the underwriter. You get to know them. If there's a problem, they can talk you through it. They build the trust. You can kind of get away with murder sometimes once you have these relationships with hard money lenders and the local credit unions. But yes, once you build a relationship, you can send other people there, and you can get as many loans as you want. A lot of people think that there's a limit of $1 million with a credit union. Like, no, I have $7 million with one credit union.
Really?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, there's no rules. You gotta always know there's no rules to nothing.
$7 million with one credit union.
With one credit union, yeah.
Got you. Are you comfortable name dropping that? Then the credit union or?
Philadelphia Credit Union.
I've heard about this credit union. You're not the first person. They have gotten some very big shout outs from people in Philly. They must be doing very beautiful business.
Yeah, because the numbers, the cash flow numbers are beautiful in Philly.
Okay.
Yeah, and especially if we went to Section 8, they know the money is guaranteed.
So you're able to go into these credit unions and essentially, because there are sometimes when you're looking for financing, depending on, what the business venture is. And we hear a lot of people talk about like high risk, right? And how the banks want to give you the money, but they also want to protect themselves.
Right.
So these banks know that you're taking the money for real estate deals.
Yeah. So a lot of times with business credit, they're like, you can't use a certain name. But no, you go to banks that are familiar with real estate loans. So you go to banks who know real estate loan. They know the area. They know how much these houses are worth. They're familiar. So, and then also all their appraisers are different. Whenever you work with an appraiser who's used to dealing with residential, they're really tight with their numbers. They have the bank's best interest at heart. But these appraisers on the business side, they know that when they give you high numbers, you're going to buy more properties, and then they're going to get more appraisals and make more money. So. Right. The side on the investment side is like abundant thinkers, and you can get loans, you get high appraisals, you get more money, you get high limits on lines of credit. It's just a different world.
Got you. $7 million from one credit union.
Yeah, I know. They trust me. Can you believe that?
$7 million. Is that and that's your baby. That's your go-to. Do you have any other banks or credit unions?
I've tried. I try to make more relationships just so I can have a backup, and they just haven't been as great. And I know that if a bank doesn't know me, I might not look that great on paper. I don't have a huge reserves. Actually, I don't have reserves. My reserves are my property. I have a couple free and clear properties that if I get into trouble, I'll just get a loan against those. But having cash in the bank is an opportunity cost to me. And a lot of real estate investors, cash burns a hole in our pocket. And when we see a good deal, we just have to buy it. So I never had a lot of reserves. So to another bank, I've tried American Heritage. I've tried TrueMark. There's a couple other banks in Philly that people use. But Philadelphia Credit Union, for some reason, they trust me and they just keep giving me loans.
So you mentioned working with appraisers and taking loans against the house and stuff like that. We talking money now. I'm getting excited. Let's talk about some money. Obviously, when you're getting into the real estate space, one of the more common ways for you to make money is you find a deal, get the house, fix it up, put some tenants in there, cash flow first of the month, right? What are some of the other different ways that we're able to, make money from a lot of these investments that we're getting our hands on as investors?
Real estate makes so much money that people don't know. There are so many flippers so that people know that you buy a house, fixed up, you sell it, you get a huge lump sum. But there's not that many buy and holders who talk about how much money that we really make. So you really make your money the longer that you keep your property. For example, of course you make your money when you buy, especially when you buy off market. So for example, my student who bought a house for $100,000, she's buying it he could have sold it for $175,000 easily. So already she has pocketed $75,000, and that is real money. She can sell it and make $75,000. She can refinance it and make $75,000. So then when she does the forced appreciation, she puts money into it. And a lot of times, sometimes you can just paint and clean a house and it will appraise. So there's a difference between selling a house and a house appraising. Okay. All you got to do is tell the appraiser what you want and you pretty much get it. It is like printing money. So she could paint the house. It's that nice. But she wants to make it nice. It's her first house. A lot of times when we get houses, we watch HGTV. We want to do this. We want to do that. I'm like, all right, go ahead and get it out your system. Go ahead. She wants to spend extra money and make it extra nice. And she thinks she needs to do that for appraisal, but you don't. You really don't. Especially with these guys. These guys, they don't pay attention to any of that stuff. They go in there. It's about the presentation. They see the house, see how much it's worth. They see how much it's cash flowing, and they assign it a number. So it is really printing money. When you go in there, you paint the property, put a tenant in there, so you're making the cash flow, you force appreciation, it appraises, you can cash out $200,000. It is real estate is printing money. And then the fact that it's protected by inflation. Inflation, when people don't know what to do, they buy real estate. When the rates drop, they buy real estate. And all this causes the value of it to go high. Not only the value of it, but the rents go up too. So my very first property, the one that I was making $1,100 a month, I'm getting $2,400 a month, almost 20 years later. So
Crazy.
yeah, my rent has doubled. The value of it has tripled. Yes, so any property that you buy now, 20 years from now, you can count on it doubling in rent. So if you're counting on your 401k, do you know how much that you can pull off in 20 years? Like how much that you're going to get every month in rent? I mean, in dividends, who knows? But real estate is pretty guaranteed. 3% appreciation rate in the value and the rents. And a lot of times it's higher than what inflation is.
Got you. Do you ever, at some point in time, because I think you said you have a couple properties that you own free and clear. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, my first two.
Got your first two. But outside of that, the rest of them, of course, you still have some type of a mortgage on them or whatever. Do you ever plan on getting to a point, because I've asked a couple of real estate investors this, and every time I bring it up, they laugh, like paying off any of the houses? No. Or for you, at least, do you ever plan on paying off some of those houses, or no, just wash, rinse, repeat?
A lot of people have a problem with debt. I've never had a problem with debt. I was not taught that it was bad. I was only taught how to manage it. And I'm like, as long as I have a Section 8 tenant in there, I know how it's going to get paid. I'm going to be in debt, because money is like, especially when the rates are dropped, that is such cheap labor. Money can work so much harder than you can. You can take out $100,000, leverage that into 5 different properties, make $700 a month from each one. 7 times 5 is what, $3,500? How much work would it take for you to make an additional $3,500 a month?
Right.
A lot. So money can stretch so much further. So whenever rates drop, always refinance everything. Pull that cash out. Put it into anything. Put it into the stock market. Put it into a whole life insurance policy. Put it anywhere. Just don't leave it in the property. So leaving your money in the property is an opportunity cost. You can leverage it when rates drop. That's the blueprint. You take it out when the rates drop, put it into your whole life insurance policy. We'll start to compound at 4%. And then when rates go back up, prices drop, you start buying more real estate again.
Beautiful. So to dive deeper into that, because obviously the name of the game is, one of the biggest things is equity, right? Your property's sitting there, and as time is going on, the value of this property is going up. You talked a lot about refinancing. Another route when it's come to just leveraging the equity that's in the property that I've heard people talk about here and there, but I don't really hear them talk about a lot, is I think it's called HELOCs. HELOCs. Could you talk a little bit about, I guess, the difference between going the route of a refinance versus going the route of a HELOC, and like which one bears more fruit?
Yeah, so this is like the nerdy part of me.
Let's do it.
I've always loved math.
Okay.
I've had my bank account since I was 7, so I know a lot about math and numbers, and I know you could pull up an equation and I would know how it looks on a graph. So the difference between compound interest and amortized interest. Compound interest, you never want to pay it. Credit cards is compound interest. HELOCs are compound interest. Amortized interest is the cheapest interest you could pay. So when you take out a HELOC, that is compound interest, you're paying more money than you would pay if you got a straight loan. So you pay, let's say you took out a loan, amortized loan, when the rates dropped at 4%, even at 5%. You put it in your whole life insurance where you're getting compound interest at a lower rate. So, all right, home equity loan, 4%. Life insurance policy, 3%. Compound. You're going to make more money in your whole life insurance, even though it's a lower rate because it's compound interest. Amortized interest is less money. So you always want to pay amortized money. You never want to pay compound money. So HELOCs are compound money.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
This is getting good. This is getting good.
I know. I was like, this is a little too deep. But yeah, people don't really know that. But I've run the numbers. I do the calculators. I have gone down rabbit holes about everything that people can overthing.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Taking a bit of a step back, another part of the real estate journey, like we said, because we're evaluating all the different ways that we can make money from this thing. Obviously, the main one being the tenants that we have in the property, right? But of course, in order for us to make money from tenants in the property, we got to get tenants in the property, right? I follow you pretty closely on social media, and one thing I hear you preach about a lot when it comes to securing these tenants is Section 8. Could you speak a little bit about how you personally have been able to leverage Section 8 talk a little bit about what it is for people who maybe don't know and how it's helped you to kind of make sure you're consistently having tenants in a lot of these properties that you're buying.
Yeah. So fortunately, when I got started in real estate at 22, I didn't know all these stigmas that people said. I didn't know that debt was bad. I didn't know that Section 8 tenants destroy your properties. I didn't know any of these things. And so I just went and did it. I saw the guaranteed money, and I liked automatic payments. I liked being able to set my mortgage on automatic once the money came in. So that was kind of my goal. And I never had any problems with tenants. But the thing that I noticed that was the real cheat code was that Section 8 paid more than you could from a regular tenant.
Oh, go into that. Talk about that.
Yes. So Section 8 has to go by HUD numbers, the fair market rent, which might be, it's like an average. It's like an average of the whole area. But when you're buying in C neighborhoods, these houses are cheaper. They're cheaper, but you're getting the average rent. And so places where a regular landlord might get $600 in rent for like a one bedroom, I was getting $900. $900. So I would buy a duplex in West Philly for $60,000, like all in. I buy it for 20, fix up for 40. I get $900 from each unit. It was, and people didn't know. They had no idea. But then eventually the word got out.
They found out.
Yes, the word got out. But the numbers are. So it got more popular, but the numbers are still work. So now when I get a property, I might be all in a duplex $150. For a one bedroom, I'm getting $1,200. So from each unit, or total, I'm getting $2,400 off of this building that I paid $150 for. $1,000 for. So the benefit of Section 8 is, number one, is guaranteed money. 2, you're getting higher than what you would normally get from a regular tenant. 3, it's just guaranteed and it lasts forever. You can just put in rent increases too. So a lot of times people don't want to increase their rent because they don't want to put pressure on their tenants. And I understand that. I do have a couple tenants who are not Section 8, and I haven't gone up on their rent because I get so much money from Section 8. So it subsidizes the public tenants' rent.
Gotcha.
But Section 8, 2 years go by, you put in for a rent increase, and it goes up to the fair market rent again. So once I refinanced a lot of my properties in 2021, I pulled out all that cash. People were like, "But the payment's going up. This is going up." I was like, "Don't worry, boo-boo. I'm going to put in these rent increases." So I put in the rent increases, and it was higher than what I thought. So a lot of times when I put in for my RAFTA, which is the form you fill out when you get a new tenant, I would always put it in higher than what I wanted. Just because, I'm trying to shoot my shot. So when I put in these rent increases, I put in $1,200 for houses where I was getting like $850, and I thought they would come in like $1,000. So I'm putting in these rent increases for $1,200, and they're getting approved.
Crazy.
I was like, what? I can get $1,200. And then I started putting my rafters for $1,200. So now I'm getting $1,200 a month in rent. A lot of people don't even know that you can get that much. Yeah. So I'm making money from high cash flow, guaranteed money, equity, appreciation, and tax benefits. I pay no taxes.
Signing up with Takeoff Financial was really the best choice for me. It allowed me to take control of my life. I know that some people may think that that's really dramatic, but it's not. I feel like credit is really important, and signing up with them allowed me to understand that. I just want to say thank you, because I think that you guys have definitely allowed me to feel comfortable. You allowed me to feel liberated. You allowed me to feel that it's okay. It's okay not to have great credit, but it's not okay to stay in that situation. So thank you guys for embracing me and allowing me to have a new life.
Head over to our website at takeofffinancial.com and let's get your credit score to the moon. Oh, no, let's talk about it. Because if we talk about money, I want to talk about taxes too, right?
Yeah. It's like insane.
When I sit down, I've had a couple individuals who I'm connected with who are like tax specialists. And one thing they've always anonymously said is real estate is the biggest tax cheat code there is. What has your experience been with that? Because I've heard like you can essentially use a lot of these properties to write everything off. So
you got to be careful with the BRRRR strategy because we need loans.
True.
You want to write everything off as depreciation, cost segregation. All of that is, do not go on trips and have networking parties no, don't do that. It has to be depreciation because depreciation actually gets added back in. It's kind of complicated. Not many people understand it, but as long as you say that you're doing a capital improvement or you're doing a BRRRR strategy, so you're already saying it's depreciated. So it's like it's on paper. It's a paper loss.
Okay.
So it's not a real loss, it's a paper loss. So the banks don't even look at it, but you pay it's for the government. You pay less taxes. So I can make $300,000 a year and pay $10,000 in taxes.
$300,000 off the properties.
Yeah.
Got you. So when you say we're essentially writing off the depreciation, what do you mean by that? Talk a little bit more about that.
It's really just a paper loss. So if a house is $300,000, you depreciate it over 27 years. So 300 divided by 27 is what you can deduct from your taxes a year. So if you made $15,000 on that house, your depreciation might be $15,000. So you made $0.
So we take the total amount of the loan of the house,
Total amount of the value of the house.
the value of the house, and divided by
27.
27 is the set number, or just
27.5.
27? Where's that number coming from?
I don't know, some tax code.
Got you. So 27.5, and that's essentially how much we could write off on the house
Every year.
Ooh wee.
Yep.
And that goes for any and every property.
Yes.
Ooh wee.
Yep. The only thing it doesn't take off is the land value. So, I mean, but you still, like, it cancels out. It cancels out. So it's like you made $0, but you really did make money.
Is there a way to kind of like you control that? Because like you said,
Yep.
on a
Yes, you can.
let's talk. So explain. Go ahead.
So, oh goodness. So, a lot of times, when I might do a refinance, I'm going to like paint all the houses again. I'm going to fix this, fix that. And I'm going to say that's a capital improvement. Okay. Capital improvement, you get to write that off as depreciation. So even though it might have been, actually a repair, I'm not going to call it a repair because that is going to hurt me when I want to apply for loans. So I'm going to call everything a capital improvement. They call it CapEx. Sound familiar?
It does.
Yeah. So you use everything as a CapEx and that you can write all that stuff off.
So capital improvement is essentially what we can categorize just the different renovations and little fix ups that we're doing in and outside of the house, and essentially use that as leverage.
Yep.
Go ahead, write that thing off.
Yes, that's right. But it's only written off for tax purposes. For the bank, they don't see that. They see it, you still made money. But if you put it as maintenance or repairs or a high water bill, that will count against you, and you might not get approved. So I say don't write a bunch of stuff off. Write everything as depreciation.
Come on now.
Yep.
Ooh, this is good. Okay. Circling back. So quickly kind of just circling back, because you talked about Section 8 tenants and things like that, in terms of how essentially you've used Section 8 to make sure get a lot of guaranteed rent and the leverage it's provided you in being able to get more than a lot of other investors in the same neighborhoods are getting for some of those properties. Are there any other government programs that you personally leverage, or is Section 8 really your bread and butter?
So I've tried. I'm always open to trying things. I've tried nonprofits. They get grants, but the thing is, grants can run out. So other programs I've tried, that might only be 8 years long. 8 years goes by pretty quickly. They run out of. You run to nonprofits. There's like AIDS and LGBTQ programs. So there's all types of programs. Any kind of program you can think of, there is a program where they'll pay you to rent to them. But in my experience, Section 8 has been the most because it's just so sophisticated with the amount of money that you get. Rental increases. They're on a program forever. So yeah, I've stuck with Section 8. Got
you. To kind of dive a little bit deeper, especially when we talk about like tenants and things of that nature. I know, of course, us being in this information age of social media, with anything, not even just real estate, everybody's winning, right? And everything is glossy and glammy and glitz. I'm curious to know, like, what's the flip side to kind of being an investor, whether it be dealing with tenants, whether it be, I guess, L's that you're taking in the process of finding a lot of these deals, because I think it's important for people to understand that too, especially if they're aspiring to get in the space. Like, you're not going to win every single time. Everything is not going to be sunshine and rainbows every single month, right? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the only hard part in business, because this is a business.
Right.
Even though it's investing, it's really actually a business, a passive business, which is why a lot of entrepreneurs, whenever they want to retire, they put their money in real estate because they already know all the business things that real estate entails. But the hardest part is the people. Having reliable people work for you, having good tenants. And a lot of times people don't vet the people who are working for them. They don't vet their contractors. They don't vet their tenants. They trust people too much. They don't follow up with nobody. So once you know how to vet people, follow up, you got to help them sometimes. So sometimes I have tenants who don't know how to fill out their paperwork. I got to sit there and fill out their paperwork. I got to sit there and help them get their payments set up. So it's like a lot of times I'm doing a lot of work to set people up who don't know what they're doing and to follow up with people. So it's like, I don't trust anybody. So because I don't trust anybody, I'm always following up. I'm always checking. I'm always making sure they know what to do. I have checklists. I set things up.
It's okay. It's okay.
I have checklists. So whenever I'm working with a new contractor, I'll say, this is the paint I used. This is where I like my light switches. So I make sure the checks and balances are outlined ahead of time. But as a new investor, you don't know these things. You don't know the things that you need to tell your contractor. You don't know the things that you need to tell your tenant. Like, tenant, this is how you turn off the water if something happens. This is how you change your battery in your smoke detector. If something's a problem, it's emergency, call 911. Don't call me, okay? My office hours are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, okay? So people don't know that they can do this and set these boundaries and stuff like that. So that's how they kind of get in trouble.
What's the most interesting experience you've had to date with a tenant? Because I've heard some stories now, just in general.
Yeah, probably this biggest fire that I ever had in my life. It was over $100,000. It was in a quad, and the guy who I put in there, he said he's a handy guy. I fix things, I'll do that. And what he did was he put a wire in my house panel, my electrical panel, and he ran an extension cord throughout his whole apartment. So this was back when Philly was putting gas liens on the property. So if a tenant didn't pay their gas bill, the landlord was responsible for it. And so what we did as landlords, we made everything electric. And when we made everything electric, it made the tenants' bills high, and they started stealing electric. So
Got you.
it resulted into things like this. So he took this extension cord, hooked it into my house panel, ran it all throughout this house, had everything hooked up, TVs, air conditioners, everything. Caused a huge fire.
Crazy.
$100,000 worth of damage.
Wait, the whole property was...
So, because, it was, I renovated it.
Gotcha.
And, we put fire things in place, like, 1 hour sheetrock, you have to put foam. So there's a lot of protections in place so that, the house doesn't, burn down to the ground. So fortunately, it was only his place that was torched. And this was in the middle of the night. It caught fire at 2:00 in the morning. So everyone was asleep. Yeah. And there's fire alarms. There was no sprinkler system because it wasn't new construction. But so $100,000 worth of work. He had this thing rigged up, and it wasn't the only fire that I had because of electric. So after I had 2 electrical fires because people were doing illegal stuff, I stopped doing electrical stuff, and I went back to gas because it wasn't worth it. So I think that was one of the craziest things that I dealt with. And I had that issue when I was pregnant, when I was doing 5 triplexes at once, and it was like the straw.
The straw that broke the camel's back.
But
Come on now.
so the insurance claim. So whenever you do an insurance claim, they give you so much money.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I didn't know was, because I manage my own projects, I'm saving a huge amount of not hiring a general contractor. I work directly with all the subs. So there is no markup. And when an insurance company gives you their estimate, they're giving you the markup that the GC charges. So I got $120,000 from the insurance company, and I think it cost me like $40,000 to fix. Yeah.
So the rest of that money...
No, it went to those 5 triplexes I was working on. But it was a blessing in disguise.
Go ahead. Tuck that in your pocket.
Yes, it saved me. It was a blessing in disguise for sure.
Wow.
And I've had 2 other fires since then, and they always give you a ton of money. I never get what they call a public adjuster. The insurance person, they want to make sure you get what you want. You can call them later and say, hey, this costs more money, and they'll give you more money. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. So that's one of the toughest experiences or worst experiences you had with a tenant, right? That was over here trying to be handyman Harry, right?
Yeah.
What's the most amount of money you've ever lost on a deal?
So that's the thing.
I wish you would come in here and say that you've never lost money on a deal.
So
you got to be honest.
Right. Okay. So the only projects I've lost money on is the COVID projects.
Okay.
Because I lost my contractor. I was home with my kids. I had a 6-month-old, and I had a 3 and I forget how old she was, but it was all young kids. So they all came home. So I could not manage my projects.
Gotcha.
I could not run a tight ship like I do. I didn't have my contractor. So I did not make as much as I would have. So my hard money loan, your hard money loans are 9 months to a year. I went over that. I had to pay a $22,000 fee.
God.
Because it was painful, and I almost had to pay it again, but I got my act together. I was like, you know what? But by then the daycare had opened back up, so I got them back in, and I was able to finish the project. So I did not lose money because 2 years later, 2022, when I refinanced. When I first bought it, they had an ARV of $400,000, and when I refinanced in 2022, they appraised for $600,000. So I still didn't lose money, even though I spent more than I would have. And going through contractors, I lost my main one. more money in interest, more money in fees, I still made money.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Got you.
And I tell people, because I'm type A, I'm on top of things. I follow with people. I'm like, hey, where you been? You've been on the job site in 3 days. I get my paperwork together. As soon as like the inside is done, I put in my refinance application. And I might be painting the outside like the day before the appraiser comes. So I run really tight ships. So I don't really lose money. I know. People say everyone loses money. I was like,
Crossing your T's and dotting your I's and staying
Yeah.
on top of it. Got you. To take things to kind of take things a step further. Obviously, you're a Black woman, mom, coming from the STEM field and now having the success that you have in real estate. I'm curious to know from when you started your journey up until now, because like I said, you've built a really great following for yourself. You've taught a lot of individuals. You've worked with a lot of individuals. Do you find that a lot of the individuals that you're getting connected with or that are just reaching out to you and just trying to learn more about real estate also are Black women that are coming from STEM fields as well?
Yeah. So I don't know what it is, but yeah, I'm attracted to women who are just like me. I have a lot of engineers, accountants, attorneys that are in my program, and we're very meticulous. We're all very type A and perfectionists too. And a lot of time I got to stop them. I'm like, all right, why are you still looking for more quotes? You got 3. Pick one. And sometimes they're like still in the planning phase too long. They might get caught up in making a. You know what happens? You get caught up in making a project perfect during the renovation. It's like you don't know when to stop. I'm like, listen, stop. Call Section 8, get an inspection done, and then that's your punch list. So. Yes, a lot of us are detail oriented. We want to be home with our kids. We want to have that time freedom. And we are good at just like, putting projects together and having a vision and making things happen. But yeah.
And that's the reason why I asked that is because, listening to your story and seeing how you, made that transition into real estate. I think at the time you said when you were going into real estate, did you already have children? I think you said you were 8 years old. You didn't have children yet. Got you. Okay, got you. But even still, having that job that you have, I feel like a lot of times whenever people are thinking about making that transition, whether it be to real estate or just entrepreneurship as a whole, there's that mental block of like, well, if I leave my job, what if this, what if that, whatever the case may be. And I'm curious to know, have you had that conversation with a lot of women that look like you that are coming from fields like STEM or who are in accounting or just have really solid careers?
Yeah.
Have felt like they hit that glass ceiling and know that they want a lot more. They want that time freedom that you've talked about. They want to just do more and become more. What are those conversations like? Because, the mental aspect of that transition is huge, right?
Yeah.
And most people aren't able to get past it like you and some of the other people that you've worked with. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So when I was going to quit, everyone was like, no, don't lose your government job, your benefits, your pension, your this and your that. And I'm like, so I did all the research I looked at how much insurance was going to cost me. It would cost me $300 a month. I looked up, the pension didn't bother me because I was going to have rental income. I looked up how much life insurance was going to cost me. Like I looked up everything. So I was like, you know what? I can pay these benefits myself. One property will pay these benefits. So the benefits isn't a huge thing, but that check every 2 weeks, you really get used to it. It's like, it took me a while to not miss it. So I think that's the main thing that you miss, that security and just knowing that you'll get paid no matter what. So, but when you become an entrepreneur, it's all on you. Yeah. If you don't get up and do something, you're not going to get paid. Facts. But I think the next best thing is I'm still relying on the government. Okay. I'm still relying on that government money. So even though I'm an entrepreneur and they're risky, I still like security, so that is why I went to Section 8, because, like I said, it still feels secure to me. But you just gotta trust yourself and, I don't know, get with some other government contracts or something. Just as long as you rely on the government somehow, I think you can still have that security. But my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I loved having her around. She was at all my track meets. Everything, field trips. And so it made me want that same lifestyle. But when my dad got on drugs, and he was considered a good man. He was the first in his family to go to college. He was an occupational therapist. We were considered like a middle-class family. He was making $80,000 in the 80s. And I asked him because I was always in the money. We had a nice house in the suburbs, had a big backyard. And so he wasn't even like a bad boy. Like he was someone who she thought she could trust forever and not have to worry about these things. But when he would go back to his friends, they are the ones who got him on drugs. So when this whole thing happened, I still wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. but I still want to have my own money. And so I felt that security with real estate and with Section 8.
So now fast forwarding years later, once again, getting to the point that you're at now and having the success that you've had, for women that are looking at you and are like, I don't know how she did whatever she did, but I want to get there, and are kind of at that place where they feel like they're stuck and they want to take that next step.
Yeah.
What are you saying to women like that look like you, talk like you, and want to be where you are, but just don't know how to kind of break through that glass ceiling and get there?
Yeah, a lot of it is unlearning what you have been taught in personal finance. So if they're my age, like in their 40s, they've probably been putting a ton of money in their 401k, a lot of money in their Roth IRA, and they don't want to take it out. So I'm like, take that money out and buy some property. So my one, I have a lot of superstars that I teach. She's a mechanical engineer. And once I taught her, like, it's okay to take the money out of your 401k and buy a property. You can make money right now. So she did. She took money out. She bought a 6-unit. She bought 11 doors in 1 year.
11 doors?
Yes. And, and replaced her income, all because she just had to break free of putting money in your retirement. So if you're established, if you're in your 40s and you have money in retirement, you can take that money out right now and start making money and rely on your properties to pay you in retirement. Once 20 years go by, if you don't want to do real estate anymore, you can sell them and live off of that cash. It's probably still more than what's in your 401k. So you just have to break free of traditional personal finance rules, use debt as leverage, not put money in a 401k, and trust in yourself and invest in real estate or any other business.
There you go. Yeah. That's it. Can't close it out any better. I know we have to, of course, get you out of here, but at the same time, you did provide a lot of value today, and I know, of course, you have a challenge coming up, right? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So this challenge is a unique opportunity where I am teaching you the same thing I teach my students in 1 week. So the first day, we teach you the funding. We teach you where to get the money from the banks, how to make your applications, how to get $100,000, $200,000 so you can start investing. The next day, we show you how to use PropStream or Deal Machine to get these properties off market. And then we just go through the whole process. Every day, we teach you something so that you can get started. And we give you homework so you can have process right now. We give you banks to apply for that night so you can get cash. We give you, you can sign up for a trial with Deal Machine and get addresses and phone numbers and owners right then and there and start calling people there. We tell you to go through your phone. There's probably people in your phone who have no someone who wants to sell a house, and you offer them a price. We tell you, how to offer it, how to do the ARV. We teach you all those things all in 1 week so that you can get started and kind of learn how easy it is for you to get started. Yeah.
Got you. Beautiful, beautiful. And what's the name of the challenge?
She builds, she profits.
Come on now.
It's for men too, though. But yeah.
So guys can tap in, but ideally, it's most likely going to be just a lot of women that are also trying to get in this space as well.
Yep.
Got you. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm tapping in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm definitely tapping in. And for those who are listening to the episode, talk a little bit about where they can go ahead and find you as well on all social media platforms.
So my main platform is Instagram, but I'm also on LinkedIn and TikTok, and I talk about my journeys every day and my contract and my tenant issues. Then I also teach a lot through there too. So if you're on a budget or you're in school to have the money, you can get a ton of free information right on my Instagram.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Ms. Janelle Wilson, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to you for tuning into this episode and showing this episode some love. If you haven't done it already, what are you doing? Listen, take a second, take a minute, take an hour out of your day right here, right now. Just go ahead and slap that like button and show this video some love. Make sure you check out Ms. Janelle Wilson, and also check out the digital challenge. She builds, she profits.
Yep.
Come on now. I'm right there on the money with it. I'm right there on the money with it. As always, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you and your time. I know that you guys received a lot of value, so make sure you guys tap into the challenge. And as always, I am Marvin Francois. This is Miss Janelle Wilson. Y'all have been good. We've been great. This has been amazing. And as always, thank you and God bless. Peace.